Good afternoon and welcome to the May 26th, 2026 meeting of the Georgetown County Council. Please take this time to silence your cell phone so we can all be present for the information to be presented. Note for the record, we do have a quorum present. Please join us as Councilor Bishop Cooper leads us in the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with grateful hearts, acknowledging that every good and perfect gift comes from you. We thank you for this county, for its people, for its family, for the privilege to serve in leadership. As we gather in this council, we ask for your wisdom to guide every decision we make. Grant us the clarity of mind, the unity of purpose, and a heart for justice, that we may serve not for ourselves, but for the good of all those entrusted to our care. Lord, we lift up our students and graduates in a season of transition. We thank you for their accomplishment, their perseverance, the support of their families and teachers and community that have helped shape them. As they step into the new chapter, we pray that you would order their step, protect their path, and fulfill them with purpose, courage, and hope for the future. We ask you continuous blessing over this county, over our neighborhood, our school, our first responders, our businesses, and every household. Strengthen us where we are weak, heal us where we are hurting, and unite us where we are divided. And we lead with integrity, serve with compassion, and always see what is right in your sight. It is in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Move down to the approval of agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Newton. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Morant. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? The agenda is approved. Move down to special reports and presentations. Georgetown County and Francis P. Burnell Foundation are partnering to spotlight a local nonprofit at each county council meeting. This week's featured nonprofit is All for Paws. If you want to step to the podium, that'd be great.
So thank you guys for having us today. I don't know if you've ever been to All for Paws. We're at 708 Pettigrew and Pawleys Island. And here are my friends I brought with me today. This is Wiggle and Waggle. We've been operating in Georgetown County since 2011, November 2011, and our goal is to save as many animals as possible. We do that a couple different ways. We do a TNR program, which is a trap, neuter, release program for feral cats. If anyone out there has any, call me. We'll get them fixed for you. We also do adoption. So we placed over 25,000 animals since our beginning. From Georgetown County, from Horry County, from a bunch of different counties, but through Georgetown County, we've placed all those animals. We work with a lot of different partners in our area. Georgetown County, St. Francis, that's right around the corner there, is one of our good buddies. We try to take dogs from them whenever we can. And as you know, we have a lot of dogs and cats in our county. We were actually laughing downstairs because they find us in Georgetown County. We don't have to go looking for animals. They show up to us. And I think probably everybody in the rooms had one show up at your house already. So call us if you need help. We really do try to step in when we can. We can't save them all, but we really, really do try. And so we've got a couple cool things coming up in the future. If you've never been up there, you have to visit. We started with two little buildings. Actually, we started out of our backyards. We rented a building on Waverly Road that's now a warehouse landscape place. We were there about a year and a half, and we moved to Pettigrew in 2014. We were pretty fortunate to have this awesome location that we got to totally remodel. So the animals have more area than the people do. That's kind of funny. A lot of these, shelters have big lobbies. We actually put it most into the kennels and the backyards outside for the dogs to run around. In 2020, we were able to get a grant from the Petco Foundation for $230,000. We raised another 90, and we were able to put in the very first of its nation, the clinic in the can. So it's 2 shipping containers that come set up with a clinic inside. And we've been able to fix so many animals through that shelter. All of the animals that have come through for adoption have come through that shelter. Last year, we ended up with 368 TNRs. In the first quarter this year, we're at 178. So we're stepping up our game as much as we can. And we have a 5-year strategic plan that stretches out a little bit further than 5 years sometimes. But we've got another building going up this week. We've got the footing for another building for new kennels in. And we would really, really like another spay neuter clinic. So anyone that wants to help out with that, there is a need in Georgetown County. We had a little bit of a dip in dog adoptions this year, and we were like, oh no, we're not going to fill our surgery spots. Well, we called some cat people. Phew, no problem. So there definitely is a need in our county. I know St. Francis stays booked up too, and we're calling each other, do you have a spot? Do you have a spot sometimes when things arise. So I really appreciate you guys letting me come out tonight and say a little bit about All for a Pause. I was going to open it up for questions. Do you guys have any questions?
Are there any questions?
I'll take from the audience too. It doesn't have to be just you guys. Is anyone
Got a
leaving here with?
comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
God bless you for what you do.
Oh, well, I don't think I could do anything else. You want to, I'll tell a short story. So when I moved to Georgetown County back in 2006, I was just about to get married and we moved here. And the weekend that we moved here, we found a dog on the side of the road. And I didn't know what to do with it. I called animal control and they said, oh, you probably want to keep it. And so we did. And by the time we opened Off Our Paws, I had 12 large dogs in my house that we needed to place, some of them. And so I love doing it. I don't think I could do anything else. I didn't know that there was such a need in the county until I moved here. And I don't know how else we could fill it, except that we have awesome volunteers. We have about 400 volunteers that come out throughout the year, not every day, but throughout the year that really, make it happen. I'm a spokesperson, but I don't do all the hands on the ground stuff every day. And the community really has come out and made us what we are. We went from a tiny little in the back of our, backyards to a huge organization that's saving 25,000 animals. And we couldn't do it without the residents of Georgetown County. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
And congratulations, Randy. I hear you getting 2 new cats.
Yeah. Any other questions or anything? Feel free.
I have a
Or just come
comment.
visit. Yeah.
You've always had a passion for the most part for animals.
I did. I actually, in 3rd grade, my teacher told me I was not allowed to write any more stories about dogs. And so I stopped that year, but I picked it back up.
That's a great thing that you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing.
We'll keep doing, and hopefully keep growing too, so that Georgetown County continues to grow. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah, thank you guys. Have a great evening.
If anybody wants to meet Wiggle and Waggle before they go.
Next, we have a report from our Economic Development Director, Ms. Kelly Robertson-Slagle. Ms. Kelly, you have the floor.
Great. It's a good thing my husband isn't here. Otherwise, we would be going home with 2 kittens. Good evening, Chairman Elliott, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the council. I am Kelly Robertson-Slagle, Director of Economic Development, and thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. I'm going to provide a brief overview of Opportunity Zones 2.0, what it is, how South Carolina is expected to evaluate potential designations, and how Georgetown County has positioned its eligible census tracts for consideration. You also have a companion handout in front of you, which I passed out right before the meeting. I do not plan to walk through every detail of that handout tonight, but it is intended to serve as a reference document for you. It includes the county scoring matrix, the priority framing for eligible tracts, and a recommended council message that preserves flexibility while clearly communicating Georgetown County's strongest opportunities. The key point tonight is simple. Opportunity zone designation is not a county incentive approval. It does not obligate council to approve funding, tax incentives, or for a specific project. It is a strategic positioning tool that can help direct private investment attention to areas where Georgetown County already has redevelopment potential, infrastructure needs, and long-term community benefit. So what is Opportunity Zone 2.0? Opportunity zones are a federal tax incentive designed to encourage private capital investment in eligible low-income census tracts. The way the program works is that investors may receive federal tax benefits when they reinvest capital gains into qualified opportunity zone projects. These projects can include business investment, redevelopment, housing, mixed-use development, and infrastructure supportive private investment. The county does not approve those federal tax benefits. The role of local government is to help make sure that the areas selected for designation are the places where the tool can be most useful. For Georgetown County, this matters because several of our eligible tracts include assets that are important to our long-term economic strategy, including redevelopment areas, employment centers, housing opportunities, and major infrastructure corridors. The most important message is this: Opportunity Zone designation can help position a track for private investment over the next decade. So what's changed under Opportunity Zone 2.0? Opportunity Zones 2.0 is essentially a refresh of the original program. The new version is expected to include stricter eligibility rules, a stronger role emphasis, more transparency, and a longer-term structure. That matters because fewer tracks may qualify and the competition statewide will be more focused. For Georgetown County, the rural emphasis is important. Our eligible tracks are not just lines on a census tract. They include real redevelopment opportunities and investment corridors where designation could help private sector activity. As reflected in your handout, our local review looked at factors such as economic impact, project readiness, private investment potential, transformational impact, strategic alignment, community need, and infrastructure advantage. Our strongest case will be made where we show three things: readiness, momentum, and community benefit. How South Carolina will be determining the sites. The designation process is led by the state. The governor will ultimately submit South Carolina's nominations to the U.S. Treasury for certification. Before that happens, the South Carolina Department of Commerce is supporting the review process by gathering local input, screening eligible tracks, comparing candidates statewide, and preparing recommendations. That means Georgetown County's role is to make our case clearly and early. We are not deciding the final map locally, but we are helping the state understand which eligible Georgetown tracts have the strongest economic development rationale. Commerce is expected to look at this from a statewide perspective. That is why local submission and our handout are framed around the same types of factors Commerce is using: investment potential, infrastructure readiness, alignment with state priorities, and community impact. Commerce is expected to evaluate eligible tracts based on several factors. The first is investment potential. In other words, can the tract attract private capital? Are there feasible projects? Is there land redevelopment opportunity or market activity that could feasibly move forward? The second is alignment with the state strategy. That includes industrial growth, workforce housing, community revitalization, and projects that support long-term economic competitiveness. The third is infrastructure readiness. That includes utilities, transportation access, broadband, available sites, housing supporting infrastructure, and other factors that help determine whether investment can actually happen. This is why Georgetown County's approach has been to look beyond eligibility alone. The tract may be eligible, but the stronger question is, can this tract tell a compelling implementation story? In Georgetown County, the answer is yes, especially in areas where we have catalytic redevelopment assets, existing infrastructure, major employment opportunities, and clear community need. So what has Georgetown County done so far through the Department of Economic Development? Locally, we have completed the first level of priority work. We've identified the eligible census tracts in the county. We've reviewed them against the factors being used by Commerce. We looked at where there are assets, including redevelopment sites, employment centers, transportation corridors, industrial properties, waterfront opportunities, rural service hubs, and areas where private investment could support broader community goals. The companion handout that you have there in front of you shows this in more detail through the scoring matrix. The strongest priority case is for the downtown IP Mill site track, which is identified as the top tier because of its redevelopment potential, infrastructure position, job creation opportunity, and connection to broader transformational corridor. The downtown transition area also ranks highly because it supports workforce housing, mixed-use demand, and community revitalization. The Andrews Rural Hub is important because it supports rural job growth, local services, and rural equity. The remaining eligible tracts are identified as strategic reserve areas, meaning they may not be immediately project-ready, but they preserve long-term flexibility for future investment, energy, land, and growth opportunities. After our thorough review, we submitted all of our eligible Georgetown tracts for consideration while also clearly identifying the highest impact tracts for priority consideration. Okay. The eligible tracts are located across the county, but the strongest case is along the Georgetown waterfront and surrounding redevelopment corridor. That corridor is significant because it connects several major assets, including the former International Paper site, the downtown transition area, the county-owned former Port of Georgetown property, and the Liberty Steel site. The port property is especially important because it is now zoned for mixed use and is entering a master planning process. That process will help evaluate market demand, infrastructure needs, environmental considerations, public input, and redevelopment feasibility. The former International Paper and Liberty Steel's property are also major redevelopment opportunities. Together with the port, they create a connected corridor that could support private investment, job creation, housing, mixed-use development, infrastructure improvements, and long-term revitalization. This is not about one project or one property. It's about positioning the major redevelopment corridor for the next generation of investment. That is why the handout refers to this as a transformational redevelopment corridor anchored by 3 major redevelopment assets and strengthens the downtown and rural hubs. In closing, Opportunity Zone 2.0 should be viewed as a strategic positioning tool for Georgetown County. It does not require county to approve a tax incentive tonight. It does not commit the county to a particular project. What it does is help Georgetown County compete for private investment by placing eligible areas in a federally recognized map that investors, developers, and state partners will pay attention to over the next decade. Our goal is to make sure Georgetown County is not left out of that consideration. We have eligible tracts, we have redevelopment opportunities, we have infrastructure needs, we have assets, and we have a strong case for Opportunity Zone designation that could help support investment in areas where it can create meaningful economic impact and community impact. We, from Economic Development, recommended posture is simple. We support the inclusion of all eligible Georgetown County tracts while clearly identifying the highest impact areas where designation could help advance redevelopment, job creation, housing, and long-term economic growth. Thank you, and I am happy to answer any questions that you have.
Ms. Kelly, I have a question.
Yes.
Looking at this map and talking about census tracts,
Mhm.
have you thought about taking our GIS system and identifying the census tracts that are high, medium, low priority or whatever on a map like this, so we could actually see where the best, the golden nuggets are?
Where the golden nuggets are.
Right.
So we received, great question. We received the eligible census tracts in Georgetown County has 6 eligible census tracts. We received those from the Department of Commerce. They were already determined based on the legislation with Opportunity Zone 2.0. So those 6 opportunity tracts, if you see the map, it should be attached to your flyer here.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. I worked with Ethan, our GIS guru, to superimpose them over top of the districts. Now, I can work with Ethan and go a little bit deeper, and so that way you can see roads, you can see towns, you can see if that's what you're requesting, so you can see it a little bit more. But these are the census tracts that are the 6. The 2 just to the left of District 4 is going to be our priority census tract. That is the area that is the area that covers international paper. And then just to the, just to the, let's see, east of that, or north of it there, is our downtown redevelopment
These are the
area,
ones with
transition.
the hash marks on.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
I'm with you. Go ahead.
Okay. Our 3rd would be out towards Andrews
Mhm.
and Councilman Newton's area. And then the last 3 here, or we are, what I'm saying, are strategic reserve. From my perspective, all of our eligible census tracts are important. I felt it was very important that we should at least submit them for consideration, considering they all are under the rural category when looking at, looking at it holistically. But there's a definite priority order, which you can see there when we looked at it. We looked at it from the lens that Commerce would be looking and reviewing our things. The top 3 definitely stood out over our strategic reserve properties.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
It'd be helpful if we had a resolution in support of this that we could give to not only the state delegation, but also to the federal delegation.
At this point, what is required of us is to submit ahead of the June 15th deadline, which we met that plus a couple weeks. At this point, what I'm doing is I'm having communications with the South Carolina Department of Commerce, and, going through, asking, any questions that they have, just clarifying things. So far, we are pretty good, but I think when they make their final determination, maybe a letter or a resolution to the Department of Commerce to be added to our submittal, I don't think it would hurt.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for Ms. Slagle?
Yes, I have a comment. The presentation was awesome. You made mention of a key pointer, and you also made mention of the bottom line. Can you reinforce the imperative of the key pointer as well as the bottom line for me? Because I noticed that the key pointer, you said it, the position 2 for Georgetown County. Could you just reinforce that for us? Our key pointer, and then the climax of the bottom line.
At the bottom, okay. The recommended posture, are kind of our philosophy. We
Somewhat of an
support,
overall. Yeah.
yep, we support the inclusion of all eligible Georgetown County tracts while clearly identifying the highest impact areas where designation could help advance redevelopment, job creation, housing, and long-term economic growth.
Now, the low income, what's the rate of the low income? If there's the low income overall, if there's under 200,000, what's dollar amount are we looking at? Because you said the key point is strategically positioned for the low income census tract.
Mhm.
And I just want to know what.
I don't have that information in front of me today, but I will pull that. It is part of the federal legislation that provides the thresholds. Commerce was able to provide that for every jurisdiction and gave us a list, but I will pull that information and make sure that you all have that, so that you understand who made it, who didn't. I also wanted to mention versus the first round of opportunity zones, which happened about 10 years ago. That's why we're going through 2.0 now. We did have a couple zones that graduated out of the program during that time. So these were census tracts that originally fell within that lower category as far as, income and others. And in that 10-year period, they graduated out of it. They grew above that threshold, which is ultimately what we want to see with this program. The program at the federal level, the intent is to get good investment into areas to bring all of our areas up for, community development and, economic development. So that was a good sign to see that some of the original ones had graduated out of the program. But I will definitely get that for all of you, so that way you have that information.
And the final thing, when you say the Scrum implementation story, give us an example.
Sure. Sure. I can give you an example, a real live example. Wasn't here, but was in a former life for me with the Opportunity Zone, and it had to do with workforce housing. And it was an opportunity where we were able to work, our department at the time was able to work with an outside private investor that they had funds specifically to invest in workforce housing. And we were able to point them towards our Opportunity Zone and a opportunity fund that had been set up specifically for workforce housing. And they were able to invest in that. The developer was on board, and a phenomenal project was able to grow out of that, which now is active, fully leased out, really for, I would say my son, he's 27. It would have, had he stayed, it would have been a perfect opportunity for him to be able to launch out of our home and into some affordable housing and work in the community where, live in the community where he was working. So it's a great example. And that's the type of projects that I envision as one example that easily could happen here in Georgetown County.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any further questions for Ms. Slagle?
If I could, just real quick point of privilege. Today is my 1 year. 1 year ago, I started in economic development, and I just wanted to say it's been an amazing year. In the words of my husband, my warranty has expired. You have to keep me now. And I really appreciate all the support from Angela, from Team Georgetown, and especially from all of you. And I look forward to many, many more years to come.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Please.
Next, we have our High Performer Award. Ms. Amy King, our Human Resources Director, will introduce our speaker, Mr. Steve Love. Ms. King, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. Before I introduce Steve and we talk about the high performers, I'd like to point out a picture. This young lady here in the picture that you can all see is our Employee of the Month, who was unable to come and collect her award at our last county council meeting. This is where she was. And we just wanted you to see there was a fire on an 18-wheeler, and that's why she couldn't join us. So we just thought you might be interested to see what she was doing when she couldn't come and visit with us and get her award. She is an amazing employee, and we're so lucky to have her, but I thought y'all might like to see that. So I'm here to introduce Steve Love. He is our broker from Gallagher. He's the one who helps us put together all of our health and other insurances for our county employees, and I will let him take the stage.
Thank you, Amy, and thanks, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be with you. I am lucky to be here today. It's going to be kind of a joyous occasion on my part, but I'm thrilled to announce that Georgetown County has been awarded Gallagher's High Performance Employer Award for excellence in pharmacy cost results. This is all relative to the employee's health plan. Georgetown County is a high achiever. They are a 3-time recipient of this award. It's given annually at our High Performance Employer Summit. And this recognition celebrates the county's outstanding achievements in implementing innovative strategies that have delivered exceptional results in controlling pharmacy costs to the health plan over the past 6 years. Georgetown County rose to the top among our summit attendee organizations. These were organizations from all across the Southeast region. And through this commitment to reducing pharmacy costs, enhancing efficiency, and prioritizing the well-being of employees, the county has set a new standard among its peers. And this award, I get to see it every day. It's a testament to the dedication and expertise to the team here at the county with Amy King in Human Resources, Angela Christian, County Administrator, the on-site clinic team, as well as trust and collaboration across valued partnerships that they have placed their trust in. So congratulations on driving meaningful change and delivering impactful results that make a difference for Georgetown County. just to give you guys a little bit of perspective on what all this means, I want to give you just some of the results that we took into account when we announced this award. For the county, if you take a look at pharmacy cost, it is only about 14% of the overall health plan spend. If you look at other organizations that we looked at, that 14% comes 25 to 30%. So they're well below what their peers are experiencing in terms of pharmacy cost control. From a national perspective, pharmacy costs, you probably know it as well, are increasing at a much faster clip than even medical cost. Year over year, we see it increase. With the past few years, it's been about a 10 or 11% increase for the last couple of years. But you take a look at Georgetown County's cost, their cost actually decreased from 2024 to 2025 by 1%. So instead of a 10 or 11%, they went down 1%, which is unheard of. And over the past 6 years, health plan pharmacy costs for the county are only 3% higher than they were in 2019. So that's a great track record for 6 years. Several reasons for that. They've got very innovative, proactive strategies that they employ. They take advantage of things in the pharmacy world, such as patient assistance program, manufacturers' coupons when possible, that lower the cost of these expensive medications for both the county, but also the members and employees and their dependents. The county also utilizes a fraud and abuse prevention program that proactively monitors for drugs that might be high in cost but low in value. And if there are better alternatives, we want to make sure we know that and can recommend those alternatives when available. The on-site clinic, I'm sure you're aware, makes available a wide range of medications that cost the county less through the clinic versus running them through the health plan. And then through that on-site clinic pharmacy, you have a lot of generic drugs, but also some higher cost medications that you may not think would be in a clinic. And these are all provided at no cost to the employees. And by making these medications free to the members or the employees when they go to the clinic, it removes any type of cost barrier to those members. So they stay on their protocols and they adhere to what the doctor prescribes them for treatment. So through cost-saving efforts like these, the county has not passed on a health contribution increase for their health insurance over the past 10 years, which is unheard of in our world. And that's just as a result of solid health plan management and pharmacy performance. So we rarely see that today. So we just wanted to honor that. So it's my honor to present Georgetown County for the 3rd year in a row, the Gallagher High Performance Employer Award for Excellence in Pharmacy Cost Control. So congratulations. And since they are 3 years running, we do have a championship belt that they have defended successfully for the past several years. So we wanted to present that for you as well. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Will that fit Amy?
Yes. Any questions I can answer for you?
Thank you, Mr. Lovett. Any questions for Mr. Love? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
If you want a photo op with the belt, happy to bring it up.
Absolutely.
All right.
I'd like to thank everybody in Georgetown County and all the employees for doing their best. Move down to resolution number 2614, a resolution supporting the South Carolina American Revolution Sesquicentennial Commission, recognizing and supporting the Georgetown County 250 Committee and endorsing the Carolina Day celebration. We have a report from ACA Ellis.
Good evening, Chairman, members of council. We're going to go through the resolution for you all to consider. Whereas the South Carolina American Revolution Sesquicentennial Commission, also known as SC 250, was established to celebrate and promote South Carolina's role in the American Revolution by educating, engaging, and inspiring residents and visitors. And whereas SC 250 seeks partnerships with counties and municipalities throughout South Carolina to commemorate the 250th anniversary of American independence. And whereas Georgetown County played a significant role during the Revolutionary era and is home to important historic sites, stories, and individuals connected to the fight for independence. And whereas Georgetown County Council desires to partner with SC 250 and the Georgetown County 250 Committee to recognize and celebrate Georgetown County's contributions to the American Revolution through educational initiatives, preservation efforts, commemorative events, and heritage tourism opportunities. And whereas Georgetown 250, in partnership with local government and community stakeholders, has planned the Carolina Day celebration from June 27th through July 5th, 2026, featuring programs and activities highlighting Georgetown County's history, culture, and Revolutionary War contributions, including the July 4th, 2026 opening of the 1976 courthouse time capsule at the Georgetown County Courthouse. And whereas Georgetown County Council believes commemorating the 250th anniversary of the American independence provides an opportunity to strengthen community pride, promote local history, and enhance Georgetown County's cultural and economic vitality through heritage tourism. And now therefore it be resolved by Georgetown County Council duly assembled that Georgetown County Council hereby recognizes and supports the Georgetown County 250 Committee as the county's official partner committee supporting SC 250 initiatives, partners with SC 250 to educate, engage, and inspire residents and visitors in commemorating the 250th anniversary of American independence, commits staff and communication support to SC 250 and Georgetown County 250 Committee initiatives that promote Georgetown County's Revolutionary War history and heritage tourism opportunities, and endorses and supports the Carolina Days, June 27th through July 5th, 2026, and encourages residents and visitors to participate in commemorative event activities done in regular meeting this 26th day of May, 2026. Present Resolution 2614 for your consideration.
Thank you, ACA Ellis. You heard the report from ACA Ellis on Resolution 2614, supporting the South Carolina American Revolution Sesquicentennial Commission, recognizing and supporting the Georgetown County 250 Committee, and endorsing the Carolina Day celebration. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
So moved by Counselor Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Mercado. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Resolution passes.
All right, Chairman, I think we have a representative from the 250 group here for a quick photo with the resolution, please.
Move down to our Tourism Management Committee budget. We have a report from Ms. Angela Christian, our County Administrator. Ms. Christian, you have the floor.
Yes, I'm wearing another hat today. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I am presenting the tourism budget for your consideration. It was included in your packet. There were two different budgets that were included. The one was the 30% and the 60% funds. This is primarily from hospitality tax that they receive. Their budget is $1,724,600. And on the second budget, it is 900,000.
Thank you, Ms. Christian. Are there any questions for Ms. Christian on the Tourism Management Committee budget? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion on the Tourism Management Committee budget.
So moved.
So moved by Counselor Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Cooper. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Budget passes. Move down to public comments. A public comment period is included on each meeting agenda and shall be limited to 30 minutes each meter. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes and no speaker may yield his or her allotted time to another speaker. A timer is provided on the screen, and at the end of your time, please wrap up your comments promptly. While speaking, please be sure to address council only and refrain from personal attacks. Council will not respond to any questions during this period. While a speaker has the floor, the public will respect the speaker and allow them their time to address council. Members of the public who wish to address council during the public input period should sign up with the clerk to council before the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers for tonight's meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 9 speakers, and as you stated, each will have 3 minutes, and our first speaker is Stephen Williams.
Good evening, councilors, administration. Thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of you today. For those of you who don't know me, Steve Williams. I am a consultant here with G3 Engineering and Surveying in Pawleys Island, and I'm here to help answer some questions that have gone unanswered from what I've read in the local newspaper around the Wetland Protection Ordinance. So, with wetlands, there is a significant amount of information out there in the public domain. One of the mapping data sets is called the National Wetland Inventory Data. It's a nationwide data set of wetlands, and you could think of it as data collected from a commercial jetliner. So it's great from a regional planning standpoint and certainly can help answer some of these questions. But I mention that because it's not necessarily going to, at that resolution, get finite details that are going to appear when somebody goes out on a property and does a wetland delineation. So small isolated wetlands, for example, wouldn't necessarily be in this data set. But there's some general information that can be gleaned from the National Wetland Inventory data, and I wanted to provide you all with some statistics to help you make the most informed decision that you can make moving forward. So in Georgetown County, there's about 47,800 parcels of land, with about 13,100 of them, or close to 30%, having some overlap with NWI mapped wetlands. And that runs at about 19 acres of wetland per parcel on average for those that do have NWI wetlands. Under the existing ordinance, about 1,600 parcels of land currently have a buffer requirement of about 452 acres of buffer within the county. Under the proposed ordinance, 17,400 parcels of land would now carry a buffer and setback requirement which is about 36% of all parcels in Georgetown County, of about 29,000 acres. That's 29,000 acres. To give you some perspective, that's like 6 cities of Georgetown. So that's an increase of 28,500 acres rather of buffered and setback land from 16,700 parcels that didn't have any restrictions whatsoever. Interestingly, 238 parcels of land in Georgetown would be rendered effectively unbuildable because 90% of those parcels would now be consumed by buffer and setback. So maybe that's a parcel of land that somebody in this room owns. Maybe it's one of your parcels of land. Anyway, certainly available to help. My name's Steve Williams. We're here locally. Feel free. My contact information was given as part of this agenda.
Elizabeth Tucker.
Hi there. My name is Elizabeth Tucker, and I am the new Deputy Administrator with the City of Georgetown. And thank you for this opportunity to address the council this evening. This is a very exciting time for both the city and the county. We have a promise of significant redevelopment along our beautiful harbor. As you may know, in 2014, the dredging of Winyah Bay was approved in the referendum. However, we did encounter several obstacles that prevented that project from ever being executed. With the expiration of that referendum in 2019, the city does understand the $6 million was to be held in a separate account to be used for future use. But now, as the county reallocates the surplus funding, which it absolutely should be doing, we believe, and I do believe that includes the $6 million, we do ask that the city and the county become partners in planning these projects. We have a direct impact on one another, and we both have the same goals. We want to make this a better place to live for our residents. We want to make it economically viable for our businesses and a welcoming destination to our visitors. I ask that the city continue to be included on county redevelopment steering committees for projects such as the seaport, and that the county also participate in redevelopment planning efforts for the city. I hope that we can become a team and that we can serve this beautiful region in which we live. Thank you so much.
Anna DiMatteo.
Hello and good evening, council members. My name is Anna DiMatteo. I'm a recent Coastal Carolina University graduate studying sustainability and coastal resilience, and I'm here to speak on behalf and support of the Wetlands Protection Ordinance. I can't necessarily speak on like a logistical side, but I can speak as to why it's important for this ordinance to be passed as a young person and a student within Georgetown and Horry County. I've been an intern for the RISE program throughout the county and at the Georgetown County Department of Environmental Services, the Waccamaw Regional Council of Government for Environmental Planning, and just recently the town of Pawleys Island for sustainability. We all, as on behalf of all of the interns, we all are encouraged to think globally and on a global scale, but act locally. And with this ordinance, we are able to do that and be like immersed within the county and be in support of things that we're passionate about and things that we see are a pro for sustainable development. Throughout Georgetown County, we have tons of resources available to us as all community members to be able to be immersed in the natural world, which is a very big part of the foundation of Georgetown. For example, the Brook Green Garden, Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge are all easily accessible pieces within the wetlands that are super important and super valuable as a way to be immersed in the environment, learn about all of its upbringing and all of its connections. Throughout my time at Coastal Carolina, I've taken many sustainability classes that immerses us within the local environment to where we not only learn about these systems and all of the local encompasses throughout it, because I'm not from Georgetown County, but I've grown very accustomed and I have a very soft spot for this area just because of my time at Coastal, where we learn, not only we learn about this environment, but we also just become very passionate about it and we want to protect it. As a young person in the county working and living here, we want to see wetlands getting the love that they deserve, and we want to be able to keep this system going forward, not only for my generation, but for the generations to come. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Skip Van Bloom.
Good evening, and thanks for your time today, council members. So my name is Skip Van Bloom. I am a landscape ecologist. I work for Clemson at Hobcaw, but I do not represent Clemson tonight. My presence here tonight is in support of the wetland ordinance. From my interpretation of the discussion in the news and on the side, it seems that there are sort of two outstanding questions. One is the wetland ordinance needed at all? And the science answer to that is yes, absolutely, it is needed, and it's needed now. Wetlands hold floodwater, they filter stormwater, they take nutrients and other contaminants out of the system before it reaches our infrastructure, including our stormwater and our water treatment plants. They reduce algal blooms, which cause fish kills. There are lots of natural ecosystem services or natural benefits that wetlands produce. Not just big wetlands, but also small wetlands. And the small wetlands are no longer protected by federal law. So we do have an additional need to protect smaller size wetlands. In the absence of wetlands, we are then forced to build stormwater ponds. And those stormwater ponds, they function. The engineering is there to back up their function, but they cost money to put in and they cost money to maintain. And I'll come back to that in a few minutes. Well, in a minute. And they also don't function as well as natural wetlands. The second question seems to be, how big should the buffer be? So the science answer to that is, of course, it depends. It depends on the soil around the wetland. It depends on how rainy it's been, and so how full the wetland is. It depends on the vegetation that's around the wetland. That's impossible to regulate, all those things. So you have to come up with a distance. There was an initial distance that has been reduced. I think we are in a scientifically justified distance right now. The current ordinance matches some of the science that is out there. So I support the current ordinance. I would support a broader ordinance, but I think we have to balance the needs of property owners with some of the science that's out there. So third, as we protect wetlands with this ordinance now, it comes at a smaller cost. It comes at some development cost, but the cost of filling in the wetlands and losing the services that they provide cost us later, including HOA fee costs. Because if you have ponds and homeowners associations, they end up managing those costs. And those are extensive costs. I can tell you about that from our own HOA. So I would ask that you consider that as well. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Mr. Dwayne Draper.
Good evening. I'm Dwayne Draper, and I'm speaking tonight in my capacity as a South Carolina Master Naturalist and Chair of Inlet and Bay Stewards, a Friends group to the North Inlet Winyah Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. I very much support the Wetlands Protection Ordinance being considered for second reading tonight. There have been many revisions to this document in recent months with much collaboration and compromise. Various workshops have been held between the Planning Commission and the Council. There's widespread support for this wetlands ordinance from the scientific community, starting with our local scientists and researchers like Skip, all the way up to state agencies like Department of Environmental Services, Department of Natural Resources, and the Office of Resilience. It's widely agreed that recent changes and rulings relating to the Federal Clean Water Act need to be mitigated by enacting local home rule protections of our salt and freshwater wetlands through buffers and setbacks. We can't afford to lose valuable wetlands to filling. Once they're gone, they're gone. You've heard this before, but I want to emphasize it again. No longer should we characterize wetlands as wastelands. They provide so much value to our communities, acting as a sponge to soak up excess stormwater. They act as a filter, sorting out excess nutrients, and they provide valuable habitat for wildlife. Our saltwater estuaries are nurseries, fostering shelter and providing food sources for many aquatic species, as is the freshwater wetlands. 3 years ago, former Planning Commissioner Sandra Bundy and I authored a proclamation recognizing the value of healthy estuary environments, which this council adopted unanimously. I would ask that you add to that commitment today by approving this wetlands protection ordinance to protect our freshwater wetlands habitats. Thank you.
Bill Hills.
Thank you, council members. We appreciate what you do for our county. Folks, this is not just, I'm speaking about the wetlands ordinance. This wetlands ordinance is not just about wetlands. It's also about private property rights. I am not against protection of wetlands. I think that's a good thing, and I'm not against a wetlands ordinance. I'm against this wetlands ordinance. I think it's a gross overstep when the county employs these buffers. You're taking private property, which is protected by the U.S. Constitution. You cannot take that private property away, the high, elevated, usable, buildable land, without paying the owner for it. You can't do it. It's against the law. We should consider us all to be responsible to keep our county out of court, to avoid legal costs. And if you pass this as it's written, the county's going to end up in court, and they're going to lose. I hope that we get a second bite at this apple, and I hope that the county will put together a panel of people to consider a wetlands ordinance, use this as a basis, consider a wetlands ordinance, and include people like landowners, true wetlands experts, also developers, industrial as well as residential developers. These are stakeholders in a wetlands ordinance that affects the county as much as this one is going to. Another thing we need to consider is the effect that this ordinance as written has on heirs property. Yes, heirs property is exempted from it in the beginning, but the incentive is to not solve title issues with wetlands or because it's going to be exempt from wetlands. It's only exempt until someone considers selling their wetlands or selling their heirs property outside of the family. Then the wetlands ordinance kicks in. So what you're telling the owners of heirs property is do not divide your property. Do not settle the title on it, because if you do, this wetlands is going to kick in and your property is going to be devalued even more. Thank you.
Madison Cooper.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Just for the record tonight, Madison Cooper, Georgetown County native, current resident, representing the Coastal Carolinas Association of Realtors this evening. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention we got our data back from last year for 2025, all of Georgetown County. The housing industry had a $1.7 billion annual impact in Georgetown County last year. 79% of that was real estate. But tonight, I'm here to speak on the wetlands ordinance. First, I want to offer our sincere thanks to county staff, Holly and her team in particular, for all of their hard work that's gone into this ordinance to get it to this point. We truly appreciate their time and effort. I wanted to follow up on my correspondence to you from Friday morning. As we move into second reading, there are still a few outstanding concerns that we hope can be addressed before final approval. First, the current definition of public interest. It appears to give the zoning administrator very broad discretion to deny wetland mitigation applications tied to private development projects. As written, it is difficult to see how a proposed disturbance of more than 1 acre on private property would realistically be approved. So we're respectfully asking for further consideration and clarification on that item. We'd also ask council to further consider the recommendations given at the last workshop regarding averaging wetland buffers and setback edges. These were given by the engineers. Strict straight line setback requirements do not always take into account changing topography and practical realities on these sites. Allowing flexibility through these averages would create a more workable approach. In addition, the ordinance would benefit from a clear definition of affected person, particularly to clarify whether that term includes individuals beyond the applicant. Finally, the ordinance states that the zoning administrator may consider input from the public or from federal, state, or local agencies, quote, if applicable. We would appreciate additional clarification regarding how applicability is determined so that the process is transparent and consistently applied. Again, we appreciate the work that has gone into this ordinance, and we hope these remaining concerns can be addressed before final approval. Thank you for your consideration.
Reagan Craig.
Good evening. I'm the newbie in this area. I'm originally from Rock Hill, South Carolina. I sold a cattle farm, came down here on Black River, and bought 2.5 miles of river frontage. And to get away from the screamers, cows mooing and all the problems, as York County went from 68,000 kind of peculiar to over 400,000 and all the people moving in. It changed and it's run agricultural people out. So I said, I'll just retire and sell pine trees. Now, all of a sudden, I've got a bunch of property that might not be worth a thing if you can't get to the water if we had to sell it. I have no intentions of selling the property that I bought. I'll kick the bucket down here, which I've got some family at Polly's and around the area. And, but here I go again. Once again, we had to move out of York County, agriculture did, and because of the amount of people coming in, and then here come the rules and the regulations. I'm the little guy. I came to the last meeting y'all had. I've got hundreds. I don't have thousands of acres. Those are my cows standing out, those fields of pine trees that I have. That's what they are. And also, I can add a little more in that I served on the York County Zoning Board of Appeals for many years. And do your constituents know that as a state regulated board, you're allowed to appoint members. They don't report to the county council. That is a state regulated body. And that's the way it's set up. So you can't, I was on the ZBA for 9 years there, and there was all kinds of issues. And like the other lady said, with the zoning administrator, you create a very powerful person who is unelected, is appointed or hired, however you want to look at it, and answers to no one. Will that get out of hand? Because it wonders when you read the agreement, the package y'all put together, towards the last part of it, you exempt economic development. Well, when you do that, okay, you then set the avenue like we did in York County to where here comes the city. Well, they won't approve it, so just move it in the city limits. And boom, you can't do a thing. So these are the things that begin to happen, and all the special interest groups start piling in. The big developers know how to make it happen. If you want to pass a law, in my opinion, just a plain old dumb old cow raising country boy, why don't you outlaw the development that people don't want to see? Instead of taking everybody's rights away. Remember, Lucas versus Coastal Council, you cannot take land based on those constitutional amendments for the common good. Can't do it. Thank you.
Monica Whalen.
Good evening. My name is Monica Whalen, and I live and work in Georgetown County, and I'm a staff attorney at the South Carolina Environmental Law Project. And I'm also here to talk about the Wetlands Protection Ordinance. First, I want to say thank you to the planning staff for their work on tailoring the ordinance to the needs of the county and for bringing in a number of experts to speak during workshops so that the Planning Commission, council, and the public can learn more about the goals of the ordinance. At the most recent workshop, we got to hear from representatives of the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, the Department of Natural Resources, and the Office of Resilience. These folks are experts in resiliency planning, ecology, marine and wetland studies, and they understand the critical need to protect wetlands for flood control, water quality, and wildlife habitat. And they spoke about this during that workshop. They all read the draft ordinance and made it clear that they are very supportive, and they recognize that this ordinance fills the gaps in federal and state protection. Now, I have to say, because I work for the Environmental Law Project, that we would like to see larger buffer widths, and but this is a great compromise. And I know it was mentioned that there was, or one of the previous speakers talked about the acreage of what would be considered the buffers, but I'm not sure if that took into account the exemptions. So that's just something to keep in mind. I also want to mention that there are other localities that have buffer requirements. Now back to the Georgetown County ordinance. This will target new developments that are in high-risk flood-prone areas and will encourage thoughtful growth throughout the county. Adopting these protections would demonstrate that the county is taking a proactive approach to growth rather than reacting after problems occur. Also, adopting this ordinance is consistent with the goals of the county's hazard mitigation plan and the land use, natural resources, and resiliency elements of the comprehensive plan. I appreciate the willingness of the staff and council to listen to expert input and public feedback throughout this process, and I encourage you to pass the ordinance on to its third reading. Thank you.
That was our final speaker.
Thank you all. We move down to resolutions, proclamations. Proclamation number 26-15 proclaiming the month of June 2026 as Men's Health Month in Georgetown County. We have a report from ACA Ellis.
Back again. All right. Proclamation 2615 proclaiming June 2026 as Men's Health Month in Georgetown County. Whereas the health and well-being of boys and men in Georgetown County are vital to the strength, productivity, and prosperity of our families, communities, and economy. And whereas men are at the higher risk for heart disease, cancer, and other serious health conditions and are less likely to seek preventative care or early treatment. And whereas encouraging regular medical checkups, preventative screenings, healthy lifestyle choices, and mental health awareness can significantly improve quality of life and reduce premature mortality rates among men and boys. And whereas Men's Health Month serves as an opportunity to increase awareness of preventable health problems and to promote early detection and treatment of disease among men and boys. And whereas the citizens of Georgetown County are encouraged to support efforts that promote physical activity, balanced nutrition, mental health, mental wellness, and access to quality health care for all men and boys. And whereas it is important to foster a culture where men and boys feel supported and seeking care, speaking openly about their health, and prioritizing their well-being year-round. Now, therefore, Georgetown County does hereby proclaim the month of June 2026 as Men's Health Month in Georgetown County and encourage all residents, healthcare providers, community organizations, and employers to raise awareness of men's health issues and to support efforts to promote the health and well-being of boys and men throughout the year, adopted this 26th day of May 2026. Proclamation 2615 for your consideration.
Thank you, ACA Ellis. You heard the report on Proclamation 2615 proclaiming the month of June 2026 as Men's Health Month in Georgetown County. Is there a motion on the floor? Moved by Councilor Charlton. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Morant. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? Proclamation passes. Move down to proclamation number 26-16, proclaiming the month of June 2026 as Forging Strong Fathers and Families Month in Georgetown County. I have a report from ACA Ellis again.
seeing a
floor.
trend with these. So Proclamation 2616, I'll read it in its entirety for your consideration. Whereas strong families are the foundation of a healthy and thriving community, and engaged, responsible fathers play a critical role in the emotional, social, and economic well-being of their children. And whereas fathers who are actively involved in their children's lives contribute to improved academic achievement, stronger self-esteem, and reduced behavioral risk. And whereas Georgetown County recognizes the importance of supporting fathers and father figures in their efforts to nurture, guide, and provide for their families. And whereas Forging Strong Fathers and Families Month is an opportunity to highlight the positive impacts of fatherhood, promote responsible parenting, and strengthen family relationships throughout our community. And whereas community organizations, faith-based groups, educators, and local leaders are encouraged to provide resources, mentorship, and support systems to empower fathers and strengthen family units. And whereas it is essential to promote year-round awareness and initiatives that support father engagement, family stability, and overall well-being of children in Georgetown County. Now, therefore, Georgetown County Council does hereby proclaim the month of June 2026 as Forging Strong Fathers and Families Month in Georgetown County, and encourages all residents to recognize and celebrate the vital role of fathers and father figures, and to support efforts that strengthen families across our community. Adopted this 26th day of May 2026. Proclamation 2616 for your consideration.
Thank you, ACA Ellis. You heard the report from ACA Ellis on Proclamation number 26-16, proclaiming the month of June 2026 as Forging Strong Fathers and Families Month in Georgetown County. Is there a motion on the floor? So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Morant. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Mr. Ellis, do you have the information or any partners, phone numbers or something for those that may not be here, but they may be watching, and they're really looking forward to, for this, of course, the month of June to be known as a Strong Father and Family Month. But they may also be considering some contacts, some phone numbers or something that they can contact.
I do not have that information available tonight, but what we can do is put together an information document that we can share on social media and other avenues to provide that information to the public. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Proclamation passes. Move down to our consent agenda. We have two items on the consent agenda that have been approved via the agenda approval process. Procurement number 26-027, generator maintenance, repair, and load bank testing. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Melton Power Systems of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder at the rates quoted of $17,429 for annual preventative maintenance, with emergency repair costs of $95 an hour. Procurement number 26-039, an 1,800-gallon tanker / pumper for Georgetown County Fire. County Fire Chief Falkenhagen and ACA Ellis recommend approval of the proposed 1,800-gallon tanker pumper for the total amount of $504,250. Move down to our second reading of ordinances. Ordinance 2614, an ordinance to make appropriations for ordinary county purposes for Georgetown County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027, to provide for the expenditure thereof, to provide for revenues for the payment thereof, as well as adjustments to various fee schedules and millage. Have a report from Ms. Megan Colgrove, our Finance Director. Ms. Colgrove, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening. Over the past several months, a series of workshops has been held to review the various funds and components that make up the county's budget. Ordinance 2614 represents the fiscal year 2026-27 budget ordinance. In addition to those workshops, the executive summary was provided to council and made available to the public through the county libraries and on the county website to ensure transparency and accessibility throughout the budget process. I'm going to recap some of what is in the budget now. The overall proposed budget for all 30 budgeted funds for FY 2026-27 is $128,343,925. This is a 5.7% increase from the adopted 25-26 budget. The State Fiscal Affairs Office has assigned a 2.63% CPI factor and a 0% growth factor, giving Georgetown County a total millage cap limitation of 2.63%. The only millage increase included for the FY 26-27 is a 0.7 mil increase to the law enforcement fund. This annual increase was required to support the minimum salary adjustments for sworn officers that were approved during the 24-25 budget process. The FY 26-27 budget represents the third and final approved 0.7 mil increase dedicated to the funding of the sworn officer pay. Employee compensation has remained a significant focus over the past several years as the county continues its efforts to recruit and retain qualified employees in an increasingly competitive workforce environment. For FY 26-27, all proposed budgets include a 3% compensation adjustment for full-time employees. Fire EMS personnel are budgeted for a 6% compensation adjustment in recognition of market demands and the critical services they provide to the community. To remain competitive and support recruitment and retention efforts, the starting salary for firefighter EMTs will increase to $50,000 annually, while firefighter paramedic starting pay will increase to $60,000 annually. Permanent part-time employees will also see an increase, with the minimum starting rate rising to $14.50 per hour. The 3% adjustment for full-time employees concludes the previously discussed multi-year compensation plan designed to improve pay levels and strengthen employee retention across the organization. There are 13 full-time and 3 permanent part-time positions added into the budget. In the general fund, we have 2 in facilities management, the tradesman, plumber, and permanent part-time custodian. We have 3 EMS and county EMS. In Parks and Rec, we have a grounds worker and an irrigation technician, and in Midway EMS, 2 firefighter EMTs. In County Fire District 1, we have 3 firefighters. Economic Development, we have an administrative specialist. And in the Environmental Services, we have a recycling center operator and 2 permanent part-time recycling attendants. As previously discussed during the budget workshops, there are several significant expenses that are not included in the 26-27 budget at this time, but which we know are forthcoming. These include projects and operational needs that have already been identified, some of which are time-sensitive in nature. For several of these items, staff are still in the process of gathering cost estimates and evaluating the full financial impact. Some represent one-time capital or project-related expenses, while others may result in ongoing operational costs. As additional information and finalized cost projections become available, it is anticipated that staff will bring a budget amendment before council in late first quarter or early second quarter for consideration.
Ms. Megan, can I ask a question on the?
Yes, sir.
Under the financial budget there, I asked about the $2.3 million to get the software that finance department needed, not only for the general use, but also to get this business license thing started. Has that been earmarked yet?
Not yet. We are in the process of starting to look for who we might want to use going forward for that finance software and HR software, and thus the business license software, but we do not have that information right now to earmark all of that.
But it will be in the third reading when we codify this.
I am not sure about that, but I will get back to you on that one.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Colgrove? Hearing none, you've heard the report on ordinance 2614, ordinance to make appropriations for ordinary county purposes for Georgetown County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027, to provide for the expenditure thereof, to provide for revenues for payment thereof, as well as adjustments to various fee schedules and millage. Is there a motion on the floor? Moved by Counselor Charlton. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Newton. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Ordinance passes. Move down to ordinance 2616, an ordinance to amend Article 8, Section 809, Article 7, Section 1206 of the Georgetown County zoning ordinance, and to create a new Article 24 entitled Wetland Protections Ordinance or the WPO. We have a report from Ms. Holly Richardson, our Planners Director. Ms. Richardson, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. And thanks to council for your time and attention to this important matter. And I wanted to say thanks to you for all that have given us good input. I do feel, as someone said, this has been a collaborative effort, and we've gotten a good bit of input. We have had several revisions to the ordinance, even leading up to tonight, which I'll go over as well. I know we have discussed this at depth. I'll try not to go into too many details, but I did want to hit a few highlights, mainly for the audience and those might be watching, to kind of summarize the ordinance. As a reminder, currently today, we do have a 15-foot setback off saltwater marsh wetlands. We don't have any setback off freshwater wetlands in our ordinance today. The ordinance, as written, addresses both jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional wetlands. It includes requirements for buffers, setbacks, and fill restrictions for those wetlands. The wetlands over half an acre must maintain a buffer in the new ordinance and a setback, and wetlands over a quarter acre in size may not be filled without a permit. The buffers are proposed with a minimum of 35 feet. For all buffers, wetlands that are part of state or federally protected lands have a 100-foot buffer. I believe that's the largest. Rivers and wetlands adjacent to those rivers have a 50-foot buffer. Golf courses have a 35 feet. Industrial uses have a 50-foot, with some exceptions. In addition to that buffer, we would then apply the rear yard setback based on whatever zoning district the particular use is in. So that would be in addition to whatever the prescribed buffer is. Within that setback, you could place an at-grade structure, you can clear, you could put something that doesn't require a building permit essentially within the rear setback. Someone mentioned this, why did we end up with a minimum buffer of 35 feet? The original model ordinance, I believe, had 50 feet. It may have had even larger than that. 35 feet plus the 15-foot setback gets you to a minimum of a 50-foot distance. And the scientific guidance that we saw, some information from DNR, that was their minimum recommended. So that's where we ended. It's kind of two parts as a compromise and based on the sort of science information that we received. Question, will this apply to existing homes or lots or farms or businesses? It will not, as long as it's an existing lot of record at the time that the ordinance would be passed. There is an exemption in the ordinance for those existing lots, existing tracts, regardless of size. The buffer requirement or the fill restrictions would not kick in until such time that property was subdivided with 3 or more lots. If a tract does not contain any wetlands, the owner would not have to have a professional delineation done. They would simply sign an affidavit stating that fact. We would review that based on the best information we have available. Unless there was some sort of question, then we would use that. And they would not need to do anything further in terms of the wetlands. Can anything go in the undisturbed buffer areas? Yes. There is a long list of exemptions in the ordinance. Some examples are stormwater facilities. We have made some exceptions for industrial developments if there are incentives involved. There are exemptions for utilities, obviously docks, maintenance, repair of existing roads, exemptions for timber harvesting, farming, for example. Does the ordinance prohibit fill of a wetland? It does not. It does require a permit for fill and some requirements that the applicant would need to show, and the burden of proof is on the applicant to show that there are no feasible alternatives to the fill request as part of the application. I think this question came up as well. What if someone has a permit from the Corps to fill what the Corps regulates, which is a jurisdictional wetland? We believe the county would then not have the authority to prohibit that fill. If it is within their purview, within the Corps of Engineers' purview, and they have a permit to fill that jurisdictional wetland, then we would not be able to deny that further. And then, as we said at the workshop, the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this back in April 16th. We had 5 people that spoke in favor of the ordinance, 1 spoke in favor of deferral, and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the ordinance. At that time, they also recommended adding a statement, which is now included in the draft, that we exempt ongoing development projects if they currently have, at the time passage of the ordinance, if they have an application into the Corps in the state for their permits, those would be exempted since they had already begun that process. The vote from the Planning Commission at that time was 5-1 in favor of the recommendation. After our workshop, we did make a few changes based on the discussion there. Those are shown in red in the draft. Most of these were procedural and technical clarifications. Some changes based on comments from legal. We did, this was a comment from DNR. We changed the reference to isolated wetlands when we talk about non-jurisdictional wetlands. We did add a 15 business day review time to the ordinance. And we added a statement that the approval would be good for a 5-year period with the possibility of extensions. Some other options that were discussed, and one thing that was mentioned during public input was the idea of having an average buffer as opposed to a strict buffer. I think that the state and federal permits allow the developers to use an average buffer. We did not add that to this draft. We certainly could. We felt like a flat, straight number would be easier from an enforcement standpoint, but certainly as average is something that we could add there as well. I think that's the updates that I have, and I'll be glad to answer any questions from you all.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Are there any questions for Ms. Richardson?
I've got a quick question on the ordinance. How many elements of the comprehensive plan does this hit? NRE and what are the other ones?
Natural resource element, the land use element, and the resiliency element. I hope I'm not forgetting one.
Any further questions for Ms. Richardson on ordinance 2616? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion on ordinance 2616, ordinance to amend Article 8, Section 809, Article 7, Section 1206 of the Georgetown County zoning ordinance, and to create a new Article 24 entitled Wetland Ordinance Protection. Is there a motion on the floor to incorporate the amended text?
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Anderson. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? It's 3-4-3. The motion is approved. We now call for a motion to approve the ordinance as amended. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Anderson. Is there any discussion? Absolutely. There's been a request for a roll call vote. Is there any further discussion on this ordinance?
Yes, I got a few things I'd like to say. The people that elected us stood up here to take their best interest at hand. Sometimes we don't do that. What this ordinance is going to do, the wealthy landowner, the big developers, the corporations, they're not going to have any problem with this ordinance. They're going to knock our teeth out, the lawyers. The ones that will suffer from this is the little guy, the heirs property owners. They might not suffer today, might not suffer next week, but eventually they will. With all that's been said, the point we all must take, what is this doing to our landowners? It's kind of funny, we're celebrating a 250-year anniversary next year that so many of our citizens died to dethrone a king from ruling us, to only be replaced by this council to the point of confiscating land without restitution. I don't think it's right. I think this is, this ordinance will will come back and cause us trouble many times over. Yeah. If you think we can take a person's or a resident's land without compensating them for it, that's wrong. No matter how you do that, that is wrong. And that's what this ordinance does. There's people out there right now that own land, will not be able to utilize the land as they deem fit, that they work for, most of them for their entire life. Now, we're gonna tell them, sorry, but your land cannot be used as you want because of this ordinance. If you think that's okay, please vote for this ordinance. If you don't, I expect you to vote no for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Newton. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just briefly. I guess the ordinance in its present state obviously concerns me. I'm concerned about the setbacks that's there. And the undertaking of utilizing someone else's property. We heard a report from one of the speakers about the number of wetlands throughout the county here. And you're looking at the necessity for more regulations basically on private persons' properties. And obviously I'm concerned about the small landowners and you know, the same thing with the property per se. That comes into play also when you're subdividing those particular tracts. And you have wetlands, you have some structure, you have some water coming across the property. Who makes the determination of the whether it's considered a protected wetland or not? And you also have situations where people who, when you go to do some type of development within your property, you're signing a statement saying that there are no wetlands there. Who's to make the decision whether there is or not? So you're going to base that solely on the particular landowner. And then when the neighbor reports that, yes, there are some wetlands within this particular property, but he's signing an affidavit saying it's not, so now you have him up front for perjury. And is there any type of fines or consideration to be done to the person who committed some type of perjury upon an affidavit? So now you're putting the landowner in another particular situation, because now he faces jail time for perjury. In its current state, I just don't see how we can go forward with it in its current state without landowners having some room at the table, some role at the table to express their concerns. And, you know, my constituency basically have some concerns about it because we represent the rural areas. And there are a lot of properties out there that's going to be affected by this particular setback, especially the small landowners. When you talking about 50 feet setback, you're talking 35 from the wetland, 15 feet sideline variance, and you have a backyard variance, and you got 15 from the other side. You're looking at a minimum of 65 feet setback, because you're talking about setbacks from different angles. So when you look at it from that particular perspective, the small landowner is not going to have much to build on. So there will not be any need for them to come to seek a building permit, because it won't be approved anyway. And also you have regulations from the state and the federal government. Why do we need more regulations for other people's properties? So it just presented concern to me in its present state. And I thank the staff for all the work they have done. I thank for all the comments that have been made regarding it. But in this present state, I don't see being able to support the particular ordinance in the current state. But y'all did a tremendous job in finding point on certain things. Just need more refining, I would think. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Morant. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, sir. I've got a few observations here.
Councilor Anderson?
And one of the gentlemen spoke about this tonight. He was drawing an analogy between the retention ponds that we engineer to take care of retaining stormwater for some time to keep it out of the drainage ditches for a period so that the storm can subside and the water will be retained and let out at a less of a rate of volume. And then also the cleanliness capabilities or properties of these retention ponds. Well, guess what? Mother Nature made the wetlands, and they do the same thing, except that they do a better job of it. So I understand that the impact of the cost. As a matter of fact, there was a question about about filling in the quarter acre ponds. And so I did a little research on that. And to fill a quarter acre pond or a quarter acre wetlands, an average of 2 feet, you're looking at about a little over $15,000 worth of dirt to fill that in by the little man, and probably another $2,500 to have a dozer come in out there and take those loads of dirt and fill in the retention pond. So it's not that cheap. If they want to fill in a retention pond, a little guy is going to be paying $17,500 to fill that in. That's a lot of money. So that's my point of view as far as, yeah, it's gonna cost to get a permit, but the big cost is going to be filling in the pond, and that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Anderson. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. My question is to Ms. Richardson. Ms. Richardson, you've been a part of the county 20 and a half years?
Yes.
Okay. And so my question to you tonight, based on as your time with the county, do you believe that this is something that we should move forward with, based on your expertise, your experience? And how does it affect air property? And what about also considering some form of panel, something that we can continue to help the people? We got a lot of great information here tonight. We had some of the expert, but on the other side of those that cannot speak for themselves, and with your longevity, I just want to know, my question to you, how do you feel about this? What do you take?
Sure. Thanks for asking. Since not long after I came here, we've been talking about the need for a setback off freshwater wetlands. We've talked about that for a long time. And we talked about it extensively with the natural resources element of the comprehensive plan. So yes, I do think that this is needed. I think we need some protections. I don't remember the number, but Mr. Williams is very good with his numbers. And Georgetown County is filled with wetlands of both kinds, and they are both important and vital. So I do think we need an ordinance. You know, we certainly could debate the grade of the ordinance, the amount of the buffer that we need. Like I said, we've tried to base it on as much scientific information as we have. But yes, I do think that something is needed in terms of further protections for our wetlands. In terms of future input from landowners and folks, we have tried to promote the ordinance via the Facebook page, via our website. We've had, again, the public hearing before the Planning Commission. We've reached out to people that we knew had an interest. Certainly glad to send the ordinance to other folks or have, you know, whatever meetings to do public outreach that we think is, you know, that you might think is necessary. Happy to do that.
What about our neighbors, Horry County, Charleston County, and a contrast comparing to our neighbors? Is this something that they're pursuing at this time? I'm just asking maybe for the people.
It's my understanding Horry County is looking at some type of wetlands buffer. I don't think currently it's as extensive as ours, but those conversations are ongoing and changing all the time. I do know that the town of Awendaw has passed some approvals for a wetlands buffer. The town of Mount Pleasant has reached out to us in terms of our ordinance. I think Beaufort County is looking at further ordinances. The town of Bluffton in Beaufort County has a buffer ordinance in place that's been talked about quite a good bit. They started with the same model ordinance that we did as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think there's a component of this that we haven't addressed, and that's safety. We live in the lowlands, we have hurricanes, we have flooding, and when properties are being built on, then there's a problem after the fact with flooding, or God forbid, a hurricane. We know how much Horry County has grown, and I don't want to see our wetlands and our environment impacted the way that Horry County has been impacted. So I hope that, I appreciate the property owner's concerns, but I think that it's important for us as council to be considerate of our residents' safety and evacuation as well, and protecting the wetlands are incredibly important to that.
Councilor Mercado, is there any further discussion?
Just just think about the property in the western part of the county. Most of the property is on forest and agricultural, isn't it? A lot of the property in the western part of the county is on FA.
That would probably be the zoning district with the most acreage in it in the western part. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that requires the building of 1 acre per structure, in the
Um,
FA district.
That's the minimum lot if you were to subdivide. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, at least 1 acre to do construction on it.
Yes.
Okay, and there would be some spacing in between other housing, so the rural area is more spread out and has more available property there to absorb some of the water which comes through, since it's further apart.
I think there is a 20-foot side yard setback in FA.
Right.
So yes, there are larger setbacks with larger lots.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Richards.
Thank you, Councilor Morant. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a request for a roll call vote, so if the clerk will please assist us.
Yes, sir. Mr. Anderson, how do you vote?
I am for this ordinance.
Mr. Morant,
Opposed.
Vice Chair,
Approve.
Mr. Chairman,
Approve.
Mr. Newton,
Oppose.
Bishop,
Oppose.
Mr. Charlton. That's 4-3, it passes.
I didn't hear what he said.
He said he's for it.
Thank you. Ordinance 2616 passes 4-3. Move down to ordinance 2617, amendment of the fiscal year 25-26 budget ordinance. We have a report from Ms. Megan Colgrove, our finance director. Ms. Colgrove, you have the floor.
Thank you. Ordinance 2617 amends the current fiscal year 25-26 operating budget as outlined in the body of the ordinance. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, staff requests that you give second reading approval to ordinance 2617.
Thank you, Ms. Colgrove. You've heard the report from Ms. Colgrove. Are there any questions for Ms. Colgrove? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion on ordinance 2617, amendment of the fiscal year 25-26 budget ordinance. Is there a motion on the floor? So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Cooper. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Ordinance passes. Move down to ordinance 26-18, ordinance to amend the ordinance 2021-05 and to ratify, authorize, reallocate, and approve the expenditures of capital sales tax revenues for community projects. Ms. Colgrove, you have the floor.
2618 is an ordinance to amend the use of the surplus 2014 capital project sales tax funds for the purchase of a new ambulance. The funding being requested comes completely from surplus funds that were not previously assigned to any project or area. We're happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we request second reading approval of ordinance 2618.
Thank you, Ms. Colgrove. Are there any questions for Ms. Colgrove on ordinance 2618? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion on ordinance 2618, ordinance to amend ordinance 2021-05 and to ratify, authorize, reallocate, and approve expenditures of capital sales tax revenues for community projects. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of ordinance number 2618.
So moved by Councilor Morant. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Cooper. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Ordinance passes. Move down to approval of minutes, our regular council meeting minutes for May 12, 2026. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Morant. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Minutes are approved. Move into executive session. Council will move into executive session to discuss legal matters related to economic development pursuant to SC Code annotated 30-4-70A5 in accordance with the procedures of 30-470A or 70B, with the understanding that upon returning to open session, council may take a vote on any matters discussed. Is there a motion to move into executive session? So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Morant. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? We're now in executive session.